Afternoon, everybody. Sean Birdsong here, Sharon Lawn. Welcome to another edition of Beyond the Court. We have a special guest with us today, Naismith, Hall of Famer, one of the 50 NBA greatest players of all time, 8-time NBA All-Star, and also a 4-time ABA All-Star. We have with us legend, Mr. Rick Barry. How's everything going, man?
Going great. As I told you earlier, I got up again. So that's a good day. When you get older, you're just happy to get up, and fortunately blessed. Actually went in and got my COVID shot today, my first one. So everything's good. I just hope that I stay healthy. That's all that matters. That's the most important thing. Health is the number one thing. And then you hope that your family is doing well also.
Right. Now, with the times that we're in right now, I want to know how you've been doing with, everything with COVID and all of that. How was quarantine for you, and what kind of things did you do or have you been doing since everybody's been kind of shut down a little bit?
Well, fortunately, I'm in Florida, so it's really not as bad as it is in a lot of other places. I basically have lived my life. I go out and play a lot of pickleball. I go for a bike ride.
How have you been doing with your interaction with the youth at large? Because I know we've been trying to reach out to the youth, this particular type of format, being Zoomed.
Well, I think that, obviously the kids are into technology, and so they probably know a lot more about it than we'll ever know. They've probably forgotten more about it. They're pretty well versed in it. And it's an opportunity, obviously, to get a lot of things done, because with a lot of the lockdown stuff, they don't have any other place to go. They're not hanging out at the malls or doing some other foolish things. They're actually probably having a chance to do more productive things. And if they were really smart, they would use this as a time to do more productive things. And so there's always that, that silver lining inside those dark clouds. And you have to try to look for that. You have to be the eternal optimist. I always have been that way. I'm the eternal optimist. That's why I've always been it's been easy for people to get a hold of me and recognize, because I never know if that next call is going to be the great call for the next great deal. I mean, you got to get out there, and you have to network, and you have to get out there. And it's certainly important to do things with the kids. The only thing that's been a drawback has been the fact that they've locked them down, and you really can't get them one-on-one and get them into an environment where you can actually work on drills and things. Although even with looking at a laptop and whatever it could be, you can still do some teaching, and you can do some things in the game of basketball to teach them and show them things to help make them a little bit better. But the most important thing for our kids today is education. It's not about basketball or football or baseball or soccer or golf or tennis or any of the other things out there. It's about getting a good education so that you're prepared to do something with your life when you get a little bit older. And that's the thing I think has to be emphasized, is get these kids better educated, get better teachers. Give them an opportunity to have something that they can do productive with their life. And it all comes down to the message I give to kids when I talk to them, with a lot of other things that I tell them. I said, look, the number one thing, if you get nothing else out of what I'm telling you here today, find something that you love. Find something that you have a passion for. Learn as much about it as you possibly can. That's the foundation that you're going to lay down. Then if you're blessed with God-given talent and ability, and you're willing to put the effort forth, you're going to maximize that potential that you have, and you're going to have a chance to do something. I said, look at me. I did that with basketball. Someone paid me. Now, they forgot 3 zeros on my contract when I played, but someone actually paid me to play basketball. I got paid to do what I love. That's not working for a living. You don't want to be somebody who gets up in the morning and says, I got to go to work today. That's a job, right? But if you have something you love to do, you're never going to work for a living.
Right. Now, you're from New Jersey, and, obviously, you had a, great career. We're going to get to that in a minute. But has sports always been, around your family when you were growing up, and was education pressed when you were growing up as a youngster in New Jersey?
Well, my father was a semi-pro player and coach. So yes, I was exposed to basketball. He was a really good athlete. He was a great fast pitch softball player as well, but he was a coach and a player, and a very successful coach in minor league basketball. And so I obviously learned the fundamentals from him. That's the best thing my dad ever did. He taught me the fundamentals, ball-man relationship, learn screening off the boards, dribbling with both hands, not looking at the ball when you dribble. Just the fundamental basic principles and concepts of the game of basketball. So I had a great foundation, and fortunately I was blessed with his athleticism and not my mother's. Otherwise I would have been in trouble. As great as she was not a great athlete. And so I was blessed with that. And then I was able to maximize it because I had other coaches and I was willing to put the time and the effort in. I mean, I would go out once I decided I was actually a better baseball player, Sean, than I was a basketball player in high school. I was an all-state baseball player. But it just wasn't, I'm an A-type personality. It was too slow for me. And that's why I pitched, or at least I could have some activity. And I switched from center field where I played because of Willie Mays, who was my boyhood hero, wearing 24, to first base and pitching, because at least that way you get some action. You can play a whole game in center field in baseball and never see a ball. I mean, so then you go down and you're not batting. So you sit there for 2 innings. I mean, it's boring. It's too hard. I just couldn't deal with it. And I could really hit the ball well. I rarely ever struck out. And so I had a bad run-in with a junior varsity coach who wouldn't let me play when I wasn't pitching. I said, Coach, I've played every position. I learned at an early age I don't ever want to catch because that's too tough a job. So I said, but I'm batting 500 better than anybody on the team. I want to play when I don't pitch. The next game I pitch, I get bat ninth. I go 1 for 2. The next game I'm on the bench. I said, okay, I'm done. That's it. So I went, and I probably should have been sending him Christmas presents because I focused on basketball. I would go out in the summertime. My mother would make breakfast for me. She'd make me some lunch. I would leave. I wouldn't come home till dinner. I'd go to the park. And if people were there, I'd play pickup. If not, I would practice and drill all day, every day, learning how to become a better basketball player.
Now that obviously carried over to high school. What was your high school experience like during that time?
I almost quit in high school in basketball. I had a coach that was a screamer, a holler. He was nuts. I mean, and in fact, later on, I heard he was at one of the colleges in New Jersey, and he was on the faculty or something. He was threatening to jump off the building. The guy was crazy. I mean, my father and my brother had to talk me into staying because they said, "Look, you can get a college education, you can get to play ball in college. You need to stay." And so I did. But it was not a pleasant experience for me. And that's why when I chose my college, it was all about the coach. I had to love the coach. I was not going to go somewhere where I had to put up with a crazy man like that. And so I wound up making a great choice by going down to play for Bruce Hale at the University of Miami because they played pro style basketball. And you can appreciate this, Sean. In my senior year, no 3-point shot. We averaged 99 a game.
Wow.
Think about that. 99 a game, college, no 3-point shot. If we had a 3-point shot, it would have been 110 or more. I had a bunch of guys from Indiana, and that's a great basketball state, as you know. My guy, Wayne Beckner, Junior G, Rick Jones, another guard, John Dampier, who is Louis Dampier's cousin. These guys, when they crossed half court, they were in range. I'm serious. These are some serious shooters. If we had the 3-point shot, it would have been crazy how many points we would have scored.
Yeah. It's crazy that you say your high school experience was, kind of iffy with the coach, but you obviously had great talent to where it's like, you know what? I already have in my mind that I have the ability to go Division I. You had a father and other people around you to support you, with that. How many hours, I mean, not specifically hours, but what kind of work at the high school level did you put in to be like, you know what? I'm going to go Division I and I'm going to excel at that?
Well, I thought I could play. I thought I could play in college. I went to see the University of Miami play. I never visited. The only school I ever visited was Wake Forest because my father wanted to go down and visit a friend if he was just living down there. But I never visited any other school. And again, it was all about the coach. And so I just really, really liked Bruce Hale when I got to meet him. Just a really terrific guy. I loved the style of play because I had great speed. Most of the time was faster than my guards. And so I had athleticism, not a super great leaper like my sons, Brent and Canyon, and even my other boys who could really jump, but I could still jump, but I was really quick, had, really good eye-hand coordination and things, could see the floor, and was blessed with the one thing that I think differentiates a good player from a great player. Great players have an inherent natural feel for the game that can never be taught. You either have it or you don't. I tell people, I can teach you how to pass, but I can't teach you how to see. All the difference in the world.
That is a great point.
Spent time, and I did spend, as I told you, I spent all day in the summer times after off season. And then, even in the winter time, sometime doing stuff, if we didn't have practice as a weekend or something, I remember going out. I finally learned how to sneak into the gym and get into the school without them knowing it, and with the lights out and stuff, because I would go out, we'd shovel off the court and we'd play pickup, when it was cold, your hands are freezing, get the snow off the court and try to play. And finally I found a way to sneak into the gym, and we'd go in and play by the street light shining through there just to be in the gym so we wouldn't freeze to death.
But I like that what you said, Rick, because the key word that you comes to me again and again is passion, finding a passion for something. Because if you keep your eyes on that passion, that prize, no matter what you're doing, that's what we try to tell the kids, you can achieve it. But you got to be passionate about it, you know.
Exactly. I mean, but there's another thing that happens to happen when you get a higher level. The other thing that most players, I think, find a difficult time doing is staying focused. Okay, a coach can get you to play hard because you know if you don't really play hard, put the energy in and the effort, that he's probably not going to play you. But
Right.
if you've played the game, you understand. When I coach, I know I get my players to play hard because if they didn't play hard, they wouldn't be playing. But playing hard and playing focused is all the difference in the world. If you're playing hard without being focused, you'll be a half a step late. And in basketball, if you're half a step late, you are in big, big trouble. Like I try to tell people when I played, I never worried about getting by my guy, okay, to go to the basket. If I could get the defender even with my shoulder, that's a half a step. I own him. He's done. Okay. So that half a step comes if you're not focused defensively, that player that you're guarding is going to get that half a step on you and you're in trouble, big trouble. So learning how to stay focused. When I coached, in fact, I would used to keep my assistants would keep time of how much time I felt the team played focused basketball. We were really into it. We played hard all the time, but we were focused. And it was really interesting because I remember putting up on the board for him. It was such a correlation between the number of minutes that we played focused and the leads that we had. I mean, it's remarkable. You're just not going to get beat badly when you're really focused because your defense is going to be tough. Now, some teams may beat you and all because they're shooting the ball well. Because I just got done talking to Jackie McMullen, who's the great writer and does some stuff, and you've seen her on TV all the time. She's doing a whole big thing, and we talked about it. And and I was telling her the same situation about this: is that you have to stay focused in what you're doing. And if you are, you can keep yourself in games, but it's defense that's going to keep you in the games. It's not your offense that's going to keep you in the games. Usually it's your defense. And that's what helps to win. You win championships if you're a good defensive team. You don't win if you're only an offensive team. That's the most redeeming thing about the NBA. In all the years I've watched it as a fan, as a player, as a broadcaster, no team has ever won an NBA title that wasn't a good defensive team. I'm not saying you have to be the best, but you can't be a bad defensive team and expect to win the championship. It's not going to happen. It really isn't going to happen.
Right. Now, you spoke earlier, about you and your teammates, putting up numbers, while you were at University of Miami, 3-time All-American. In your senior year, you led the NCAA in scoring with 38 points a game without a three-point line. At that time, with you putting up those kind of numbers, did you have any aspirations of going and playing professionally?
Well, I was hoping to get drafted, sure. Yeah. In fact, actually, the time I felt that I knew I had a chance to do it, I was a sophomore. And Mike McCoy was our center. He was a 7-foot center who should have been playing today because he loved to shoot the ball from outside like the 7-footers all like to do nowadays. He never wanted to be down underneath the basket. And so Lou Mose, who was the general manager of the Lakers, the Los Angeles Lakers at that time, came out to scout him. And so he watched them and all, and there was a story in the paper that I read, and they said, "What do you think of Mike McCoy's chances of making it in the NBA?" He said, "Well, I don't know because back then the big guys are usually inside." He said, he's not a low post player, blah, blah, blah. He says, "But I'll tell you what," he said, "Rick Barry is going to be a great pro basketball player someday." I was a sophomore, my first year playing. So to hear that from the general manager of the Lakers, that made me feel pretty darn good about my chances. And so I put the time, I put the effort into it. I would go we didn't have a gym on campus when I was at school. Think about that. We had a court that was a portable court that Jeeps used to drive on sometime. Inside an armory on campus was where we practiced. And
Wow.
I would go in there because the team manager had a key to it. And I'd be in there at 11, 12 o'clock at night with him, playing one-on-one, practicing drills, doing things, just trying to get better. Never satisfied. I'm a perfectionist like my father is. And I never was satisfied with what I did. And I really tell kids, as the moment you think that you've got it and you really know all you need to know, that's the moment you're starting the downward spiral. You never should be satisfied with where you are. You should always strive to get better and improve in anything you're doing in life.
Now, you ended up getting drafted, second overall in the NBA draft by the San Francisco Warriors. I read somewhere that you wanted to go to the Knicks. You being from New Jersey, but you wanted to get drafted by the Knicks. And I guess, they went a different direction and chose Bill
Bill
Bradley.
Bradley, yeah.
Now, is it true that, I see on your face, you kind of looked away. Is it true that you gave them 57 points?
I gave him a lot of points on a lot of different occasions. I never forgave him for that. In fact, even more incentive was that the owner of the team, who was a guy named Ned Irish, he he said when asked why you're not drafting Barry, and he said because he's too skinny and flaky. Now, he may have been correct, but I sure didn't appreciate him saying that, and so I never forgot that. And I had a lot of big games against the Knicks during my career because I did want to be drafted by the Knicks to be there, around my hometown and friends and family, and so I took incredible pride and incredible focus every time I played against the Knicks.
How was your transition? It wasn't off, but we like to really share with people, share with the youth, the business of basketball, because people are just looking at the basketball as a sports, but there's such a big opportunities beyond the court, off the court, and what it entails, just, working for your team. That's what we try to tell the youth. I said, maybe you may not be drafted, but what about if you get an education and work in the back office, because basketball is a sport, but it is a business.
Well, it's a huge business, obviously. That's why I was saying the number one thing to tell about kids is get a good education, because if you don't make it as a professional athlete, you have to have something else to do with your life. And so find something else that you have a love and a passion for, learn about that, get to be as good at it as you possibly can. And then, just put yourself out there. Don't be afraid of being rejected. I mean, that's life. I mean, everything isn't going to come your way. I mean, a lot of people are going to say no to you, but don't get discouraged by it, because it only takes one yes, right? And it's a numbers game, right? You're not going to stay at zero all the time. So if the more times you go out and you get no, the better the chances are that a yes is going to come along down the road. And you have to look at it that way, because it's all about numbers. And so don't be afraid. Same thing. Don't be afraid to fail. I mean, you learn. Smart, intelligent people learn from their mistakes. Now, you can't keep making the same mistake over and over again. That's why you have to learn. And you say, okay, I did that wrong. I'm not going to do that again. So I'll make sure I learn how to do it the right way or the correct way. And that's a very important element to have. And then, hopefully you can get yourself in. It's hard to get into the sports world. I mean, it's not an easy thing to do. But if you do well and excel in your grades, and then you go and apply yourself, and they go and they see that you are good at what you do, then it's going to enhance your chances of being able to get into the type of business that you want to get into. But it's all about the education. You have to have a good education, and you have to show the people that you're qualified in order to be able to do the job that somebody is going to be willing to pay you for.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of business, during your career when you're with the Warriors, if you can speak on it, you were involved with a contract dispute with the Warriors and the management, which led to you playing in the ABA. Can you talk about, not in specific detail, but what was really around that case that made it so historic and groundbreaking?
Well, it was historic but everybody keeps talking about Curt Flood. I was Curt Flood before Curt Flood. What Curt Flood did, I did with basketball. I mean, it's the same contract. It was called the reserve clause. And every time when you signed that contract, you were basically locked in forever. Because if you didn't accept the contract they offered you for the next year, you were obligated to play for 90% of the contract that you played for the previous year. And so the league was not very happy with the Warriors, because they took the position that was, no, we have an option for your services for the next year. They really wanted me back for that next year, because we had come within just a pick and roll player so of beating that great 76ers team with Will Chamberlain and Billy Cunningham and Hal Greer and Larry Costello and a whole bunch of other players. And Chet Walker was on that team as well. So I challenged that reserve clause, and that changed everything. It opened up the door for players to play their options out, become free agents, and that was a major change in sports. And now, I didn't do it specifically for that. The reason I did it is that basketball had always been fun for me. I mean, I loved the game. It was fun. I was the MVP of the All-Star game. I was first team All-Pro again for the second year in a row. I was one of the top steal guys. I think I was up top free throw percentage, whatever. And I didn't have a lot of fun. We came within 2 plays of winning the world title, my ultimate goal. And so there was an opportunity with the ABA coming in, that my former college coach, who was also at that time my father-in-law, because I married his daughter, they offered him the coaching job. And so I had a chance to possibly go and play for him and know I'm going to have a hell of a lot more fun, because I didn't have a lot of fun there, because God, Bill Sharman, God rest his soul, great coach, great person, one of the top 50 players. And we hardly ever had a day off. He's the one that started this morning shoot around stuff, which I think is the biggest waste of energy in the world for a guy who plays a lot. But at least, see, back when we did it, Sean, it was just sneaks and jeans. It was basically, it was to get you out of bed. Okay. So you didn't leave your game in bed and sleep there all day. So, and we didn't fly charters after games. We went out with our $8 per diem in the cars that we drove to find the place open, that you get something to eat, fall asleep by 1 or 2 in the morning, get up at 5:30 or so, or 6 to catch a 6:30 or 7 o'clock flight on a commercial airline and coach to get to the next city. It was a totally different world. And so it just wasn't a lot of fun. And so, but the whole thing is that I didn't do it for money, because I said, hey, Oaks, here's the deal. Pat Boone and owners, give me your best offer. I'm going to go back to the Warriors and I'm going to ask them for their best offer. If your offer is better than theirs, I'll go with you. Okay. I'll give you that chance. So I had loyalty to the Warriors, but I guess I said, I want your best offer. They gave me a low ball offer. They give me lower guaranteed money with a percentage of gate. How do I know how many people are going to go to the game? I mean, there's no guarantee there. And so they opened up the door for me to leave. And then they came back and gave me another offer. I said, you already gave me your offer. I said, you can't come back and give me an offer now to do it. I said, because I told the other people, I said, so I'm going to be a person of my word. I'm going to do what I said. And in my heart, I really was looking forward to play for my father-in-law. And as it turned out, he wound up being the general manager. They wound up hiring Alex Hannum, who I actually liked a lot, who was my first coach when I played in the NBA, and former player in the NBA as well. And so, so it all worked out fine in that regard. But I got vilified for leaving. I mean, just absolutely crucified by the press. I guess anytime you're a pioneer in something, you're going to have to pay the price. But I didn't do it over money. I gave the Warriors every chance to get me, and they blew it. And everything in life happens for a reason. Had I not done that, I wouldn't be here talking to you now in the same position that I'm in my life. I wouldn't have the amazing wife that I have now. I wouldn't have my incredible youngest son. I wouldn't have the friends that I have. My life would have been totally different. And so you just accept what it is in life. And, if something happens, I tell young people, listen, if something happens really sad, cry and get over it, because you can't change it. So why do you want to be miserable and make everybody around you miserable over something that already happened that you can't change? So, and I've learned and over the years that a lot of people don't have that ability to do that. I call it compartmentalization. I can take things and put them on the back burner in my head and not think about them. Like people say, do you miss playing? And I said, no. And they look strangely at me like, well, how do you not miss playing? I said, I don't miss playing because I don't think about it. Because if I were to think about it, it would make me very sad. So why do I want to be sad thinking about the fact that I can never do something that I love to do so dearly? So I don't think about it. And I'm in my life, thank God, I have the ability to do that. It just makes life so much simpler. It saves so much emotion and so much trauma and so much hurt and pain at times. And I'm just grateful for that. And I've learned that a lot of people can't do that, but that's kind of the way that I approach things. So, but if I had to do it over again, Sean, if I had to do it over, I would have not left the NBA. If I could be where I am today with the same wife, everything I told you, all those wonderful things that I have, and know that I can have that and I can go back in time and stay in the NBA and the same things, and I'd be here, I would stay. I think my stature in the game would have changed dramatically. It would have been a whole different world, for me. But it's okay. I mean, it was pretty darn good as it is. I was asked when I was, just talking recently here with Jackie. I've had a great life. I mean, everybody should have my life. I mean, yeah, I've had things. I had injuries. I had concerns whether I'd ever be able to play again because of my injuries. But overall, I've had an incredible life. I'm healthy. I don't feel any different now at my age. Heck, I'm almost going to be 77 years old. It's just almost not. It's hard for me to believe that I'm going to be that old, because I don't feel any differently than I felt when I was in my 50s. I just tell people I can't run as fast or jump as high, but I still go out. I play pickleball, ride bikes. I can do almost anything I want to do. Even after the bad bicycle accident I had when I was in a wheelchair for 3 months, thank God I was able to recover from that. Well, I had a great surgeon, Dr. Patel, who I joked with him and said, who said they can't put Humpty Dumpty back together again? I had fractured pelvis in 6 places. I have more pins and screws and rods in me. It's just crazy. And I don't even ring when I go through metal detector in the airport. Which is, but yeah, I'm very, very fortunate indeed. There's no doubt about it. I'm incredibly blessed.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned the NBA when you in that kind of context because you know you had success in the ABA and the NBA, and you actually won championships with both leagues. And I was wondering, which was more fun for you, the ABA or the NBA? Because we all look at, we see the highlights and there are people, who remember those ABA days, and it just looked like, to me, pickup games, just dunking and high scoring and all of that. Really high level basketball. Which one for you was the most fun to play in?
Okay, so let me put it this way. Would you like to have a Ferrari or would you like to have an AMC Pacer? You don't even know what an AMC Pacer is, probably.
He doesn't.
No, he
a Ferrari.
doesn't. Yeah, well, yeah, thank you very much. The NBA. I mean, the NBA was the ultimate league. I mean, there's no question about it. But timing is everything in life. And joking about that. So the year that we won the championship, two things happened. One thing was that for the first time, they decided to let the players vote for the most valuable player for that year. Well, I was done. I said, I have no chance of ever winning that because I don't go out there to make friends. I went out there to kick your ass. I didn't go out there to make friends with you. And so I didn't even finish first, which I should have. Okay. The writers usually pick it. So the writers picked the all-pro team. So I was the only unanimous choice for the all-pro team. Does that tell you who would have been the MVP? I think it does. And so I didn't get that. And then also I win the All-Star game MVP, which I still think, and I'll tell you something about that I have something that needs to be done in the NBA. They still won't listen to me. But so that year, the sponsor for the MVP of the All-Star games gets changed from Chevrolet, right, to American Motors. So I get an AMC Pacer instead of a Corvette. So things were not going my way really well that year. And so I look back at it and I kind of chuckle and laugh. But here's the thing about MVP. I don't understand how the NBA, and for decades, I have told the NBA, said it to all the different commissioners, what are you guys thinking about? How do you possibly pick an MVP in a league that doesn't have a balanced schedule? Right? Western Conference plays 2 times against the Eastern, once at home, once on the road. So how do you pick an MVP? And usually the Western Conference in recent decades has been much more difficult than the Eastern Conference. It used to be maybe the Eastern was more difficult. You need to have an MVP of the Eastern Conference and an MVP of the Western Conference. And then you have your MVP of the championship series. Plus, from a business standpoint, you get another sponsor, right? You got a sponsor for the MVP in one league, a sponsor. So the more money you're bringing in, you're going to recognize 2 players instead of 1, justifiably so, for what they did in their respective conferences.
Yeah.
So why in the world would you not do that? It just makes so much logical sense. And yet they don't do it. It's one of the craziest things ever. And then also, I always believe that you should have 2 awards in sports, the most outstanding player and the most valuable player. They're not always the same. There's guys that have incredible years that could be the most outstanding player who aren't necessarily the most valuable player in the league.
Right.
So now you get 2 more sponsors. And as great as they are as a marketing machine, the NBA, they really blew it on this. I'm telling you right now.
You went from basketball to broadcasting. Can you share a little bit about that?
Well, again, I prepared myself for it. It's again preparation. When I was in college, well, first of all, the reason I felt that way is that when I grew up back east, I got to see my teams that I watched were the New York Football Giants and the New York Giants baseball team and the Knicks. So I got to see 2 great New York Giants football players go from being great football players to the broadcasting booth, which is Pat Summerall and Frank Gifford. So I said, wow, wouldn't that be cool if I got to be a professional basketball player, because that's what I want to be, and then I could broadcast afterwards. So when I went to college, I majored in marketing, but unfortunately in the business school, you can't have a minor. So I took every elective course I could conceivably get my hands on in the radio, TV, and film world. So, I mean, I took speech courses. I took every course they had. I probably had enough credits to have a major in RTF, radio, television, film. And so I did that to prepare myself for it. And I started very early. After my rookie year, I was doing radio stuff as a news broadcaster for the top rated morning drive show for a guy named Frank Dill on KMBR radio. And every year since 1966, for, probably now, some years I didn't do a few things, but almost 50 years I've done something in broadcasting, whether it was the sports reporter for that, did some talk shows, did color analyst. I actually wound up doing play-by-play. I did a lot of other sports, working for CBS and Turner Broadcasting. So again, you can't go into life and expect to be good at something if you don't prepare yourself.
Right. And it's very interesting you say that because, we've had multiple guests on, they keep talking about having options. So that, a lot of times you hear about not even just basketball players, but athletes, when they're finished retiring or even in the course of them playing, they get wrapped up in playing so much that they don't look at a plan B and then they don't know
see
words, but it's very.
Well, I was doing the broadcasting during my basketball career.
Right.
I mean, I even wound up doing, color analyst. Being a color analyst when I was still playing. So, in 1976, when we lost to Phoenix in the finals, still one of the most disappointing days of my life, I wound up doing the finals, with the incredible series between Boston and Phoenix. And so I actually got to do my broadcasting work while I was still involved in my primary career playing professional basketball. So I was very fortunate.
Right. Now, your sons continued the lineage from what, your father had passed on to you, and then you passed on to them. You have 4 sons who all went on to play professionally. Sorry, 5. 4 of them, if I'm correct, went on to play professionally.
No, all 5.
All 5. Sorry, all 5
right.
Play professionally. And did you ever push them to play basketball?
Never push it. You never
they naturally came around.
No, that's the other thing for parents who might be listening. Don't push your kids into things. What you do is you expose your children to as many different things as possible. Let them make the decision as to what really attracts and draws them to it, and then support them in every way possible. And then focus on getting them the proper teaching for whatever it is they express an interest in, so they are fundamentally sound in whatever it may be, whether it's music, whether it's sports, it doesn't matter. That's what you need to do as a parent. Don't try to live your hopes and dreams by forcing and pushing your kids into doing what you want them to do. Let them make the decision.
I love that, Rick, because when we had an interview with Jeffrey Jordan, Michael's oldest son, it was a nice conversation between Sean and him, saying that, their dads said to them, you don't have to play basketball. And, Otis said it to Sean, it's like, you don't have to play basketball. And that was just so refreshing to hear Jeffrey say that, because his parents was open to say, look, you do you.
I went beyond that, to be honest with you. I said to my boys, I said, look, I'm telling you right now, if you want to play I taught them, and that's the only thing I take credit for, is they got some great genes from their mother and from me. And I did teach them the fundamentals. They went to my camps. I said, my boys probably could give my shooting lecture by verbatim. They've heard it so many times, but I did work with them. But I said to them, I said, just understand and remember this. If you decide to play basketball, it's going to be more difficult for you than another player, because everyone is going to compare you to me. And you're going to have this giant shadow of me hanging over you your entire career. So you need to be prepared for that. And I remember seeing an article one time in John's first year when he went off to college, and he had something, why did everybody keep bringing up my father? So I called him. I said, son, this is what I was trying to tell you about. This is something, it's never going to go away. And you can't worry about that. Just be the best that you can be. And it doesn't matter how you compare to me.
Now, after you left, the game, you retired with a tremendous career. You were named 50 greatest, NBA player of all time. And also, of course, the Naismith Hall of Fame. What was that feeling like for you to have your career and what you did for the game of basketball, to have that acknowledged with 2 of the best achievements that a basketball player can have?
Well, here's the thing, is that if I had those and I didn't have a championship, I'd be extremely disappointed. And here's the way I equate it. So if you get a birthday cake, right? You have icing, you have the little flowers that are on there, you've got candles, you got cherries, you got all these wonderful adornments. Take all of those things and put them on a plate. What do they look like? A freaking big mess, right? They don't look very good unless you have them on a cake. The championship is the cake. The other things are the adornments. And fortunately for me, I had a lot of things individually that I did, and I received a lot of recognition for them. So I have the most important thing, the cake, and then I was able to decorate the cake really nicely. But if I didn't have the adornments, I'd still be real happy having that cake.
Right. I mean, I won't say I know you filled up every stat sheet and accolade that I think any player can have, from your finals MVP, NBA champion, and so on and so on. It's just like a tremendous career for one person to have. I just think that's awesome.
Well, I'm very blessed for that. I mean, I'm most grateful for the fact that I had the championship team I was on in the ABA, and also finally got the championship team in the NBA, because we came so close in my second year against that great 76ers team. As I said, there were 2 pick and roll plays between Nate Thurman and myself with Will Chamberlain that, had they gone our way, we would have won that series. And so I was so happy when we won in 75, especially in the way that we did it. I still think it's the biggest upset in professional major sports in this country's history in finals. And I defy anybody all the time. I said, well, tell me one that was a bigger upset. Tell me one. Oh, the Jets winning the Super Bowl. No, the Jets were picked to be a great team in the AFL. We weren't even picked to be a playoff team. Not only that, then we win our division, and everybody says, well, that's lucky they were able to do that. Well, they're going to lose, they'll lose in the conference finals. And we wind up beating Chicago in 7 games in the conference final in a great series. And then they say, this is going to be the biggest mismatch in the NBA finals history. The 60+ win Washington Bullets are going to just walk all over the Warriors. Mike Reardon can guard Barry. They're done. And I'm saying, wait a second. Did somebody actually say that Mike Reardon could guard me and stop me? I said, what are they, crazy? I said, I'm taller and faster than he is. And I don't know how they came up with it. I think we played them 4 games that year, and I think they won 3-1, if I'm not mistaken. One of the games was a very close game. One of the games I probably shouldn't have played. I remember I was hurt and I still played, and I probably shouldn't have played and didn't play very well. But it certainly wasn't because Mike Reardon shut me down. In fact, I have a difficult time when I hear former players doing color analyst work these days on a game saying he's a lockdown defender. Sean, I'm telling you guys, there is no such thing as a lockdown defender if the guy is a scorer. You can lock down a shooter, but you cannot lock down a scorer. It is never going to happen. Now, you may get lucky and have him have a bad day and he's not shooting the ball well and he doesn't score so well, but you didn't lock him down. You just got lucky. Okay. And a really great defender, I might score 30 points against a great defender, or 35 even. Chances are, if I played that hard and did what I did in that game against a bad defender, I probably would have had 45 or 50. So he may have done a really good job. If a defender can get a guy to take 3, 4, 5 more shots than he normally takes to get his points, even though he got his points, you did a good job. That's a good job.
That's crazy that you say that, because I've always heard that, guys like yourself, the Kobe's, the Jordans, the George Gervins, all the great scorers in NBA history, it's almost like the word was, you can contain them, but you will never shut them down. But for you to sit there and say, you can basically shut down a shooter, a scorer, I've never heard that before.
No, well, you can't. You just can't. I mean, there's too many ways. Here's the thing. So this would be great for somebody to listen. I analyzed it, looked at it. How hard is it to really score 20 points in the game if you're playing? Seriously. So here's the deal. So if you're playing a team that's running there, you get down the floor and you bust your hump. I'm going to get 4 points on fast break layups and transition. That's 4, right? I'm going to drive to the basket, and because I was relentless going to the basket. For me, the way I did it early in my career there, I was getting double digits. I was getting 10 or more points from the line. But I'm saying, let's be conservative, and I'll say I'll get 6. I've already got 10, right? Now with the 3-point shot, throw the 3-point shot into it, but let's just take the 2-point first. So now I'm at 10. So if I take 15 shots, right, and I only make 5, 33%, which sucks, I'm already at 20.
Right.
Okay. Now, if I'm shooting the ball well, I mean, how hard is it to get over 20? And then if I shoot threes, if I only make 2 threes out of 8 shots, which is not great either, that's 6 more points. And then let's throw in 1 offensive rebound put back. If you hustle on the board, you might get an offensive board and put that one back in. How the hell hard is it to score 20 points? Seriously, it's not.
Right. I think I had it broken down to me from my dad when I was in high school. And he said, you're playing 8-minute quarters. It's not hard to average 20 points a game in high school. And, if you're younger, you're thinking, dang, 20, 25 points is a lot of points. But it was like, if you're a shooter or a scorer, you can get to the basket, that's 2 points, and you can hit a three, that's 5 points a quarter. If you do that consistently, you can average 20 points a game.
Oh yeah, it's not very difficult, really. As long as you're in there and you get the ball in your hands. I mean, it depends upon, your team if they're going to give you the ball. I mean, if you got a point guard that dominates the ball, then you're in trouble. That's why I love playing with the passing point guard, not the new shooting, scoring point guard. Give me the guy who wants to pass. Give me the Magic Johnsons and John Stocktons and the Steve Nashes of the world, who would rather get 15 to 20 assists than worry about scoring 30 points. Now, it's great if he has the ability to score as well, but his primary objective should be to create easy opportunities for his teammates to score. That's the ideal point guard as far as I'm concerned.
And that's a key point. It's about the team.
It's all about team. It's about being. Yeah, here's the thing.
Yeah.
And when I talked to some, I actually talked to the Warriors one year. One coach called me in there to talk to them. I said, look, if you want to be successful, the way to be successful is that you have to take your ego and put it in the closet at the start of the season, because it's no longer about you. It now is about the team. What can you do to help your team be successful? And you sometimes have to sacrifice. The coach may ask you to do some things that you might not think are the best things for you to do. And if you had an issue with that and you didn't think you can do them well, you should go to the coach and say, Coach, I don't know if I can do that. I'll try as best I can, whatever. But you have to communicate. It's just like any relationship. Coach and player is just as much as the parent and children, teacher and student. It's very, very important. Communication is everything. And so, yeah, it's that. Put it in the closet. That's what was so beautiful about our 75 championship team, is that everybody was willing to do whatever they could do. Everybody was pulling for one another. Somebody wasn't sitting there hoping somebody got in foul trouble and hoping somebody got hurt so they get a chance to play. Whether they played 2 minutes or whether they played 20 minutes or 30 minutes, it didn't matter. The guys were going to play as hard as they can play, do what was right, make sure that you get the ball to the people who are going good. Whatever happened to the old thing? I remember watching my sons in college sometime. My one son, Brent, went in and watched the game. He scored 9 points in 20 seconds, hitting 3 3-pointers, and then went 5 minutes and never touched the ball. I mean, what? I mean, the old thing, milk the hot hand. If somebody's going good, get the guy some more freaking shots. Put the ball in his hands. I mean, it's just astonishing. You watch NBA games and you see a guy come down doing something. That's why the Warriors are so good. Look what they did when Klay Thompson was on fire that one game. Got 37 points in 1 quarter. 1 quarter. That doesn't happen if you don't have teammates willing to get you the ball.
Right.
So, and here's the thing for me. People always say as a scorer, I honestly got more enjoyment out of making a really nice pass to my teammate for a basket than I did scoring the basket myself. It's still the same result. It's 2 points on our side of the board. And what's happened, that's why if I had to do it again playing right now, I'd come back a point guard. I would want the ball in my hands, and I tried to do that. I was actually the first point forward that they gave that terminology to, because I would get a rebound, bring it up the court, and get the ball to people. And I was a number of times later in my career, I was the only forward in the top 10 in assists, and I really enjoyed it. In fact, I mean, I can still remember my greatest pass ever. I remember exactly what it is that I was chasing the ball. I can give you an idea. So the court. Here's the court. The court's going from here to here. This is our bench is closest to me. Our bench was like over here, closer to you. The ball got knocked this way. Our basket happened to be this time. The ball got knocked loose, and most of the people were going this way. I ran to the ball, and I happened to see my teammate Phil Smith over here near the bench running down towards the basket. So I ran towards half court. I bent over and got the ball like a football quarterback, a center. Took the ball and hiked it through my legs and just hiked it back towards the basket. I mean, I kind of had an idea where the basket was, and I got lucky. I mean, threw it up. It was absolutely perfect, right up next to the rim. He caught it and 2-hand dunked it. Greatest pass I ever made in my life. And I still remember it to this day. It's like it happened yesterday. And the assists are great. I mean, you talk about records and stuff. Probably one of the records, I did all the scoring and stuff and all, but one of the records I'm proudest of, I still think I have the record for the most assists by a small forward in the history of the NBA. I had 19 assists in a game in Chicago. And I like to joke about it and say, well, if I had 19 and I was in Chicago, chances are I had over 20, because I know they screwed me out of a couple of assists.
Now you're wearing the city shirt, And you
So-
just mentioned, you know,
I
about
just did that for fun. I mean, this is where I played. That was the greatest jersey ever. One of the biggest
right,
ones when they came out with those jerseys. And that was my
right.
second year in the league when I was lucky enough to, I led the league in scoring, got the MVP and stuff. But those are cool jerseys. I
Yeah,
got the hat on too. So.
Yeah.
I like it. Now you're wearing that, and you talked earlier about, you know, point scores and all of that. You know, one of the guys, you know, that's playing right now, you know, potentially future Hall of Famer, Steph Curry. What do you think
What do you
about?
mean potentially? Potentially. Now, sure, a lock. If there was ever a lock, I
It's a
mean,
lot, right,
a
right.
lot.
Future Hall of Famer,
Yeah,
right,
future Hall of Famer Steph Curry. Depending
right,
on when he retires. Yeah, 5 years after he retires, he'll be in the Hall of Fame.
right. What do you think about your former
I
team?
love him. I love Steph Curry. I just love. I think he's one of the most fun players to watch play. He's one of the most amazing shooters I've ever seen, and a really good guy. I mean, I just have great respect. I love greatness. Okay, anybody that's great in anything in life, I have incredible respect and admiration for. I love people who go out and take advantage of the God-given talents that they had and take them to the highest level possible. And it really kills me sometimes to watch games and watch players sometimes who have such amazing natural skill and talent who don't get the most out of it. It just breaks my heart
Yeah.
almost. I had a kid when I coached in the minor leagues that was Michael Jordan-esque. He was actually bigger like this and stronger than Michael and about his same size, jump out of the gym, incredible athlete.
Mhm.
Nobody taught him how to play the game the right way. He didn't have the fundamentals, and he was already married with some kids. He's 26 when I had him in the minor leagues. He would be the first guy at practice, one to stay after, just one of the nicest young men I've ever met in my life. I couldn't even start him on my team because he didn't know how to play. I mean, and so it was too late to try to teach him how to play. And so when I see stuff like that, it's so sad to see talent get wasted. I really do dislike that. So anyway, but I do respect and admire all of them. Like, just like your dad. I mean, I respected your dad. Dad was a great shooter, a scorer, and player, and everything. And you can't help but respect your peers and the people who are part of what you're doing in life. There's so many guys in basketball that I had a chance to play with and against in all-star games, and it was a great thing. Although now they need to change that. I just got into a big thing with Jackie about that. I said, why do they even call it an all-star game? Just call it all-star weekend and the exhibition game, because it's not a game anymore. I mean, it really is. It's a joke. When we played, it was meaningful. It was great pride that we took in making the all-star game to have a chance to play against the best in the other conference and see who could win the damn game. And it was awesome. It was just absolutely awesome. And now, I mean, I hope always that when they dare to have them, that the game was close in the last 5 minutes, because if it was close in the last 5 minutes, then they'll get a little more serious about it and maybe try to win and all. But the stuff that they do is just, if you go there just to be entertained because you're going to see some amazing things. Like, I still remember the pass that Steph Curry made in a few years back in one of the All-Star games. He came over half court and he took and threw a bounce pass ahead of him that went up over to the other side of the basket. And I'm trying to think who it was, that somebody went up on the other side and just two-hand smashed it in there. It was just like the most perfect freaking pass. I mean, I said, wow, that's such an incredible pass. But it's not a game. It's not a game anymore.
Right. Now, with all your achievements, in basketball, but also in life, what would you say is has been your biggest accomplishment throughout your whole life up to this point? It could be off the court or on the court.
Probably having as many children as I've had who have led a good life, who haven't done anything foolish with their life, and who had a chance to play the game that I love so much and to play it at the highest level. I mean, the chances of having 5 boys, everyone get a Division I college scholarship. Every one of them played professionally, 3 in the NBA, should have had 5 in the NBA. My son Scooter should have been there. Larry Bird and McHale said, Rick, your son was better than our number 1 pick, should have been on our team, and who played overseas till he was 40. And then my youngest son, Canyon, who I think should be there, who's playing now in the G League and is on the national 3x3 team, hopefully to get to the Olympics. It's crazy. I mean, the odds on that. I mean, I was hoping that one of them would be good enough just to play, and to have all of them to play at that level, as they say, but to all be good people who haven't done anything silly with their life.
Yeah.
As a parent, that's all you hope. You just hope for good things for your kids. And so I was fortunate enough to, to bring them into this world, and I'm grateful for that. And I also have a wonderful daughter who I adopted because
Mhm.
obviously I wasn't a producer of girls, and so yeah, I would say that's the thing that I feel most pride about. And then the other thing is that I know that in my life, I never ever in my life intentionally try to hurt anybody. I've always
Yeah.
tried to be a good person. People don't think I'm a good person, some of them, which is unfortunate. They don't really know me. But all I can say is that they would be very fortunate if they had me as a friend.
Yeah. You come from the good place, just being, we always try to tell everyone, oh, for me, I coach when I speak to the youth, I said, don't make any apologies for who you are. Don't let anyone tell you that you're not a good person. Just be who you are.
Yeah,
Just be
and know who you
genuine.
are. Know who you are.
Know you who
And
you
if
are.
you know you're a good person, you
Hmm.
can't be worried about what other people think. Trust me, I've lived with that for so many years. It's unbelievable. I mean,
Hmm.
I had somebody in the book that he wrote and everything, and I can't even believe he did it, call me an appendage that comes out of a man's body down lower. And
Hmm.
I said, how in the world? This guy doesn't even know me. So how
Yeah.
could he possibly? Why would he write something like that and call himself a professional journalist and say something as derogatory as that about me as a person and a human being? I mean, you
Yeah.
can have your opinion about me as a player and like me or not like me as a player, but don't have an opinion about me as a person if you don't
Yeah.
know me.
What would be your message, to the youth coming up that want to pursue sports, broadcasting, anything? What would be your message to them that had, to the ones who have aspirations of doing that when they get older?
Well, it's what we get back to when we first had talked. Their number one priority in life should be your education. Try to get the best education you can, and then as you progress, find something that you really love and apply yourself to that, and try to pick something where you can make a career out of it. And if you are focusing on your sports, don't neglect the education.
Yes.
The education should always be first, because the odds on a young person making it into the professional ranks in any sport is so astronomical.
Hmm.
I mean, the chances are very, very slim. So you have to be prepared for something else in life. Otherwise, you become a lost soul. That's why I feel so badly for some of these kids who declare to come out in the draft when you're not going to get, and they wind up not getting drafted. They just screwed up their entire education. And now what are they going to do with their life? They didn't make it into the NBA, and getting all that money, I can certainly understand it, especially if you come from
Hmm.
a family that hasn't done well and it's been difficult, and you can get millions of dollars to change the life of your family. I say do that. I mean, yeah, sure. I mean, the education is important, but if you were that good in your profession and you can get millions of dollars and change your family's life, I think you'd be foolish not to do it. But I still think that you don't have to necessarily do it, because there's a way to still go get your education and still
Yeah.
have the enjoyment of doing the collegiate experience, because you can go out and go to any bank in the world and borrow money to get a liability policy. So that God, if you were projected to be as a freshman or a sophomore in college to be a number one pick in the NBA, you know that you're going to be making multi-millions of dollars. There is not a bank in the world that would not loan you, or some lender loan you that money,
Right.
pay for that policy, because they know that if you don't get hurt, you're going to be, and if you do get hurt, now you got the policy to give you these millions of dollars. So at least you're not going to be left out in the lurches, and it protects you from the injury. And now you can still experience life as a collegiate player, do the things, get your education. The NBA will still be there. You'll still get your money. In fact, if you go and you play and you get better and do it, this may be probably even more money for you, because every year things go up and they improve. So it could enhance your chances of getting even more money. And so that's what I would tell them to do. I mean, don't just, jump out to jump out. I mean, there's more to life, Now, if it's crazy, you're going to get 10, $12 million. I mean, if you're smart, that should take care of you and your family for the rest of your life, unless you do something really foolish. And then if you get past those first 3 years and you really become a good player, now you make, just obscene money. So it doesn't matter. So, your education isn't going to really matter that much. But I'm all for that. In fact, if I was coaching, one of the things, if I try to get to be a coach in college at my alma mater, and they didn't give me the opportunity, but one of the things I would have done with recruiting with my players, I said, look, every one of you, you're objective is to become an NBA player, obviously, right? Okay. You want to learn to be an NBA player? Come and play for me. My staff is going to be made up of former NBA players. We're going to play NBA style basketball. It's going to be like going to training camp for the NBA playing for us. And I will tell you if I think you're ready to go. And I'll do everything I can to help you achieve your dream. But you got to come and get your education and apply yourself in school. You're not going to come here. I'm not going to allow you to come in here and play once, one semester, do nothing, go into class, or just get yourself barely eligible to play the second. That's not going to cut it, because I know what's important in life. And I said, you'll be more appreciative of the fact if you do get an education, because you'll enjoy life a lot more. You'll have a better appreciation for many more things than just basketball.
And I think what's also good, on that, on education, just because you go and play in the NBA, there's many guys and many players that continue their education pursuits, especially since we're very much a technology person, that we can do courses online,
Well, a lot of these guys go back and get their degrees. They promised their mom. Sharon, that's and I respect that when guys do that. That's really great that they will go back and do that, and it's terrific. And I also wish that the press would give more publicity to a lot of these guys who are going out and doing amazing things and starting up charter schools and doing things to help their communities out. I mean, the only thing you hear about are all the bad things that somebody do on page number 1 in the first story on Sports Center. Why don't we do some more talking about the good that these guys are doing?
Right.
Oh, absolutely. And you get noticed when the school is up and running, but they don't, it's like they didn't pull out of their hat and started a charter school,
Just think of the lives that they've changed. I mean, seriously. I mean, what more gratification can you get in life to know that you were able to change the life for the better of a human being?
Exactly.
And not just one. For some of these guys, it's multiple, and it's a lot of young. I mean, what a wonderful thing to be able to do. I mean, I know that if I had a $200 million 5-year contract, I mean, there's so many things that I would do in order to try to accomplish that. I mean, even when I go out sometimes, and I've done some things to the limited things I could do, because I never heard the word million in my contract negotiations, but I know a lot of people. I remember going to a Gunther Tootie's. I don't know if you heard of that. It's like a diner restaurant. This gal was like one of the greatest waitresses I've ever. I mean, she was so good. I mean, and I have friends who were in the restaurant business. I mean, big time. My great friend from college, who guy's no longer with us, wound up becoming the CEO of Morton's Steakhouses. Okay, took him international. So I said this. I said, "Would you be interested in working someplace else where you can actually make some serious dollars?" And she said, "Well, yeah, of course I do it." So I said, "Okay, here's the deal. Let me have your name and number. I'm going to make a call for you." So I called up the manager of the Mortons. This is in Denver. So I called up the manager and I said, "Look, I have a young lady that I think would be a great waitress for you, because they take pride in the service that they have there and the quality of their food." And I said, "Could you interview this girl for a job? Because I know that a lot of people have gone through the ranks at Morton's and wound up becoming managers and having successful lives." And so I did. So I set it up for this gal to go and have a chance to go where she gets some serious tips. I mean, because the bills are, hundreds and hundreds of dollars as opposed to $12 or $8 or whatever it may be. And so I was able to help her get a job there, which hopefully, I don't know what she wound up doing, but hopefully change her life. I mean, but just a little thing like that. I mean, it's just nice to do. I've always been a better giver than a receiver.
We always ask our guests on Beyond the Court, what does being an American baller mean to them? So it could be anything: basketball, life, anything to Rick Barry. Rick Barry, what does being an American baller mean to you?
Well, first of all, being an American, it's everything to me. I am just so distraught over what's going on in our country and what we're doing here, and having this bitterness and hate for each other. Hey, you're entitled to have your feelings and doing stuff. You don't have to hate somebody just because they don't believe the same thing you believe in. I mean, let's not take it to the extremes that we're taking it. And then obviously being a bowler, because it's been such an important part of my life. I mean, ever since I started playing basketball when I was 5 years old, because my brother Dennis started when he was 9 and my dad taught him. And so I wanted to do everything my brother did. And so I actually played on back then was called grammar school. Now would be elementary school. I played on the 8th grade basketball team as a 5th grader with my brother, and my father was the coach. And so it's been such an important part of my life. and it's provided an incredible life for me and for my family. So I'm eternally grateful for the game of basketball, and I'm eternally grateful for being an American, where basketball could flourish the way it's flourished in this amazing country that we have. And I hope we don't screw things up on both levels, because basketball was getting to the point where I was having a tough time watching it when they were just doing too much of this one-on-one stuff, and teamwork was going out the freaking window. It's painful to watch. I mean, seriously painful.
Right.
And it seems like more and more teams are finally starting to copy what the Warriors were able to do so successfully for 5 years. And you'll appreciate this, Sharon, and so will you, Sean. I was writing for the Examiner the first series that Cleveland played against Golden State back when they were great teams. And I remember after the first game, I wrote in my column, the Cleveland Cavaliers will never beat the Golden State Warriors in this series playing the way they played in game number 1. 59 possessions for the Cleveland Cavaliers, 0 or 1 pass. 59. That's not team basketball. I'm sorry. That's insane. My dad taught me when I was younger, and I always remembered it, that the more decisions you force the defense to make, the more the likelihood they'll make a mistake, and you'll wind up getting something different than what you were trying to accomplish. And it's just proven itself so true. That's why you pass, you move, you cut, you force the defense to make decisions. And if you have players who understand the game with the fundamentals back to, they recognize those mistakes and you capitalize on those mistakes, and you wind up getting easy baskets. A great example was years later when Cleveland played the Warriors again. It was the one that Cleveland wound up actually, no, it was the Warriors won this one. The Cleveland almost got swept. If you remember, they won game 4 back in Cleveland. And credit to them for coming out with a great effort to salvage the series. I mean, to salvage it, not getting swept. They come back and play game 5 at Golden State. They're way ahead early in the game. The Warriors come back on them, and it would have been real easy for them. They're on the road. It's so you're down 3-1, give it up. They didn't. They fought. The third quarter was still a great game. 2 plays changed the entire game, and it comes right down to what I just talked about. And I remember the 2 players who were involved. From Cleveland. I don't remember whether it was Clay or Steph was coming from the left side, running off of some staggered people who were, teammates, running their man off, going under the basket out to the right corner. And it happened to be J.R. Smith and LeBron. They didn't communicate. They had a decision to make. They both jumped out on the shooter. Dunk. Inside. Boom. Twice. Happened 2 different times. Opened up the game. Cleveland was done. And see, that's like what, that's poetry in motion. That's just, it's so beautiful to watch that, because that's the way the game should be played. And it's why it shows you how communication is everything in life, even in a simple game like basketball. The 2 players didn't communicate. So they both were worried about the shooter. They didn't communicate. They both step out, and the guy walks in and gets a dunk. I loved it.
Right.
Well, this was very inspiring, Rick. It was good to see you, especially this way. Hopefully, God willing, I see you again once in a while in
Well,
person.
all the best to you and your listeners, and I wish everybody, certainly good health. Let's hope we get back to some sense of normalcy and get all of this
Absolutely.
craziness out of the way. I don't know if it's ever going to be the same. I think the government has done such a job of brainwashing people and putting the fear of God into so many people that they don't need to have the fear. If you're older with health issues and things, or you have certain health issues, yes, you should be very concerned. But the overwhelming majority of people, this virus can't kill them. I mean, it's like getting the flu. I mean, that's the reality of it. So let's hope that we can come to our senses. And this thing of watching people drive around, it is today. Well, I just got my shot. People driving with masks on in the car by themselves. I mean, hello. I mean, who are you going to catch it from in your car by yourself? I mean, really. And then they're out riding a bike by themselves in the fresh air with a mask on. I mean, people are just, some of my friends are so paranoid. It's just unbelievable to me. And, if they're, as I say, if they have health issues and stuff, They should be. They should be concerned and take all the precautions you can. But to take our kids out of school and do what they're doing to our kids and doing to so many businesses and so many people's lives, I think it's reprehensible. And I will end on that. And just again, God bless all of you. Let's talk and think about basketball. Let's hope that we have a great playoff coming up and that we have the right teams there. Unfortunately, my Warriors won't be one of them this year. But anything can happen in basketball. You know that.
Anything.
Last night, look at last night. Look at what Denver did to
Right.
LA. LA had a 7-game winning streak and they just killed them last night. I mean, it's
You never know.
great.
You
And
never know.
then the other one, they're struggling back in Brooklyn. They don't know what's going on, but all three of those guys are playing really well and they just crushed the Warriors the other night. I mean, they just put it to them big time. So as I say, in basketball, always expect the unexpected. And
Absolutely.
I would never bet a dime on a basketball game because having been there, I know that you don't know. Like when I go to New York, Rick, how you feeling? How you do? Because they would bet. I heard that these guys used to bet how many points I'd get in the first quarter, how many in the second quarter, how many in the third, how much points you're going to win by and everything. And I would say that, I said, look, how I feel is irrelevant. It's how I play. I said, I have felt absolutely miserable and played great. I have felt absolutely awesome and played miserably. So I every conceivable thing can happen. The whole thing is that you don't, during an 80 something game schedule, you're going to have, my father-in-law had told me this because he played pro basketball. He said, you'll have 6 to 8 games where things just aren't going for you offensively. He said, that's where a smart player, you had to find something else to do to give purpose to you being on the court. So go and start to look to set up, get some assists for your guys, go get some more rebounds, play a little better defense. Don't be a liability when you're on the court, but understand you're going to have some games where it's just not happening. But the whole thing is that you want to be relatively consistent in anything you do in life, so that you can count on. You can't count on somebody in the basketball game or as a player that can get you 25 one night, 6 the next, 18, 4. No, you want somebody that's consistent, that's going to go out and play well all the time, and occasionally will have those single-digit games. And that's what you want to strive for in life: consistency. Be consistent. And here's the greatest key to success for all your young people out there. All of the great qualities you could talk about. I talk about pride and everything, great pride. My father instilled great pride in everything I do. Take pride in it. That's what you got to do. And all of the wonderful things, having determination, dedication, all of the things that make up the word pride, repetition, education, all the other things. They all lead up to the one quality that you must have in order to have greatness. You have to believe in yourself. You must have confidence in your abilities to do what it is that you're trained to do. And if you do that, you will eliminate from your vocabulary and from your world the most overused word that I hear, especially in sports, and that's the word pressure. How many times do I have to listen to guys talking, oh, the pressure's really on, the pressure. Let me tell you something. There is no such thing as pressure in the real world other than when you build it up in a pot with steam and stuff. In life, if you're prepared properly, because what you're asked to do is to perform sometimes in very critical situations, very demanding, that you perform. You have to perform at a high level. Those are situations that could become pressure only if you lack confidence in your ability to do what it is to do. And so I believed in what I could do. I told people, if I could play every game of my life over again, I would want it to come down to the last 10 seconds with the game on the line. I want the ball in my hands. Because I believed I would either get a shot. I'm not going to make them all, but I believed I would if I took it. But I want the ball in my hands to be able to have control of the outcome of that game by doing a great pass to a teammate, scoring myself, whatever it may be. That's confidence. Those situations for me weren't pressure. I love those. I love that to happen. But if you don't have confidence, the weight of the world can be on your shoulders and you will feel pressure.
Rick, we are truly, truly grateful for you to take the time out and be a guest. And, you're a legend in so many ways, but we really appreciate you again talking to our viewers about your life and the great messages that you share with us today.
Well, I wish all of the great young people, God bless you, stay healthy, education, respect and honor your parents and your friends and your family and people in general. Okay. And just treat people the way that you would like to be treated. So, and that works really well unless you have some serious issues, and hopefully you don't.